Now, so does PIP really improve people's performance? Now, we will do this exercise. So Azamri and Stephanie, do you mind just counting, right? So realistically, guys, how many of you, let's say no, right? How many of you do not agree that PIP is really to improve people's performance? Or turn around, how many of you actually do agree that PIP is to improve performance? We're getting close to the McLean survey here, right? I think we crossed the 50% threshold. So that's good. Stating reasons, I think we'll go through quite a few of that during Q&A, if that's okay, yeah? Now, common causes for underperformance. I know there's a lot of text here, right? However, let's briefly run through this here. Some common causes. An employee doesn't know what is expected because there's, the goals are unclear. Interpersonal differences between the employer and employee. I will give you an example. I'm Australian. I came to Malaysia, and 4 years ago, when I started with IHR Consulting, right? Prior to that, I ran a cloudy recruitment business here. And that business was all Australians. So I didn't actually have a work culture transition during that period. However, with IHR Consulting, I actually faced, within my first 2 weeks to 3 weeks, a major cultural barrier. Now, of my staff, there's one person in this room now, right? And this happened. Within 2 weeks, I was frustrated because I work at 1,000 miles an hour. And at that pace, I also demand a naturalized level of understanding that I do not need to explain myself in, it's like the joke that I had when I first came to Malaysia in asking for directions. Directions in Malaysia is just go straight, is that way. Right? That was my big shock. Within 2 to 3 weeks in being in IHR, I had 2 people that I put instantly on warning because I was going to fire them. Those 2 people annoyed the living daylights out of me. Those 2 people essentially sucked oxygen out of every day. And I'm sharing this with you. This is my staff. Why? Because culturally, I had a major difference. I sat with both of them, gave them a warning, and said, you don't shape up, you're going to be out of here. Could have gone 2 ways. Those 2 guys, today, as I said, one of them is in this room. Those 2 guys, within a period of 5 weeks, absolutely amazed me. In April of 2014, we had a launch, and the HR minister launched our solution. These 2 boys created digital media that, even if I had used a creative agency, they would not have delivered it. We had people from Singapore that commended us. We had people from a particular creative agency with Astro that came up and said, which studio did you use? And I went, 8-2 Jalan Telawi 2. So what I'm getting at is, here, the interpersonal differences between employers and understanding, I operated from a different environment, and I was expecting that naturally from my guys. Yes, I was very open and very candid in highlighting my frustration. However, during that period, I also then got to understand, what is it that was missing? What is it that was lacking? What I discovered was they actually didn't have enough stimulation. What I discovered was that they were doing things, it was okay, it wasn't challenging enough. So I naturally then challenged them and I gave them something stimulating, and within 5 weeks, what they proved to me was by far the biggest lesson that I've had in Malaysia. And one of those guys, ladies and gentlemen, is Azamri Dollar, right there. That kid. And he remembers, yeah? My conversation with him was, after that, with Stephanie and Supra, he was just going, oh, Roy is a bad... We are now great friends, and we have a fantastic team. Performance improvement does work, because you identify not only the flaws, but also I also looked at my flaws. And my flaws was my communication. I talk too fast, right? My pace of working wasn't acceptable to them, and the stimulation. So I changed as well. So you do have to, and I like the fact that you're acknowledging, yes, you do have to look at yourself. It is not always about the employee. So moving on, there's a mismatch between the employee's capabilities and the job he or she is required to undertake. This here and this other point, employee does not have the knowledge or skills. Those 2 points, I then will point the finger back to HR and the person recruiting. Where you've come to, there's a mismatch between the employee's capabilities and the job required to undertake, and also does not have the knowledge and skills. Why'd you recruit them in the first place? Right? You don't go and recruit a pastry chef to come and do dialysis work. Right? Yes, I know certain people have skills and interests. However, be realistic. Like for like matching. Algorithm writing, etc. It's like dating as well, right? Exactly. Not that I know much about that, but so during the whole interview process, you've expensed all this time, the entire testing, etc. I met with a company recently that has a phenomenal recruitment process. Absolutely brilliant. They have to go through 3 tests, and the 3 tests being technical, community, and then cultural. And they have to pass all 3 tests with a minimum of 80% pass before they get to an interview stage. So they know that whoever is coming on board not only is a fit, culturally, attitude, technically, right? So we go back to the earlier points of inefficiency, inaptitude, etc. All that is filtered. So the excuse isn't warranted later on when you go, oh, I didn't know I had to do that for my job. Right? That's the easiest excuse, right? I didn't know I had to do that. So use filtration mechanisms and link that back to your recruitment. The employee does not know whether he is doing a good job because no counseling or feedback. 90% of small businesses and entrepreneurs are guilty of this. 90%. And I'm saying that statistics peeled out of my consulting. We are all good with going along, everything happening fine. However, is it that difficult to give people simple feedback, right? For today, my guys have put this event together. There's papers, there's pencils, etc. Then this event, it's as simple as this. I know for a fact, I will have a chat with my guys this afternoon before I head off to Penang and go, hey guys, thank you. That was awesome. I didn't have to do a thing. I arrived, delivered the talk, you took care of everything. Now, I haven't eaten yet, so I don't know what the quality of food is, right? Now, that could be something that may go downhill, right? But I'll rely on you for that feedback. Lack of personal motivation, low morale, or poor work environment. That's a fairly loaded statement, right? It is fairly loaded because where there is poor work environment and low morale in the workplace, you can go through various cultural vitality surveys, employee engagement surveys, employee climate surveys, etc., and you will have every bit of information available to you that, there's not enough cohesion or collaboration with teams, etc. We should all get together and sing Kumbaya and go on weekends and do firewalking if we have to, right? We had this discussion yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I'm not a big believer in that, right? And the reason why I'm not a big believer is because it is short-term. It is sporadic. Your performance change and your culture change, your morale change is sporadic, right? It's like when you go to someone's house for dinner and you have a great barbecue and the barbecue is fantastic and the music's great and the food is fantastic. You talk about it for about 2 weeks. After that, you forget about it. It's gone. So low morale, work environment, etc., is actually a long-term consideration. And that is something, once again, you need to look yourself as to what needs to happen in the organization. With regards to lack of personal motivation, this to me is a big open topic. We had a book last year, or year before last. My dad wrote the book that we distributed called Motivating the Unmotivated. So if any of you want a copy of that, let us know. That's part of our service that we give that book out. One issue about motivation is we need to also accept the fact not everybody can be motivated. Not everybody likes to work hard or fast. We need to accept that. Some people actually do like to do filing. Some people actually do like to just sit there, do some data entry, finish their work, pack their bags, go home. They don't like to talk to other people. That's okay. That is okay. You cannot reprimand them for not having a personality. However, if they're in a sales-oriented job, or a client-facing CRM job, or a BD role, right? I think you will need a bit of energy and a bit of life and personality, right? However, don't impose on people and just go, God, look at you. There's just no energy or life in you. You don't have to do that. Some people naturally are happy doing what they want to do. Personal issues such as family, stress, physical, mental health problems, drugs, and alcohol, right? This here relates to not only performance, there's many other issues and many other topics that I cross-reference the same thing too. Personal issues and family issues, I will highlight to you that to address this here also links back to feedback and communication. How often do you actually speak to staff? And I'm not talking, okay, fine, from a CEO all the way through to exec staff or junior level staff. No doubt there's layers, and no doubt there's business unit owners and there's supervisors. They must have some level of interaction. They must have some form of communication with a staff member of what their life is like, what's happening. Recently we've had an issue with a particular client that the staff member was very despondent, was very disengaged, was very withdrawn. Why? His child was diagnosed with cancer. Right? So you also need to have, as we call human resources, wait, Subra's not here. Human resources, we add E to it. It needs to be humane resources as well. You can't just purely disengage yourself from that. Right? Let's be realistic. Drugs and alcohol is a separate issue. We had this discussion yesterday. Drugs and alcohol in Malaysia, you will see more and more changes coming around occupational health and safety in certain industries. In Australia, we have a zero tolerance within the mining sector and construction sector. There's a zero tolerance on alcohol and drugs. If you are, and every staff member, every contractor within oil and gas, civil and construction is breathalyzed and drug tested every morning or every pre-shift, right? So if they are even 0.01% engaged, they will be terminated. It's within the scope for them.